Hey, everybody, this is Dan from Pain Free You. I have the pleasure today of sitting with Diane from England. I think she said south of England. And she's willing to tell her story, her TMS journey, her mind body journey. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about the symptoms, kind of what was going on at the time, her experience with the medical world, her experience in the mind body world, and kind of what eventually led her out to the point where she feels, I think she said before we started recording, I feel perfectly fine physically.
Mm.
So that's wonderful. So Diane, thank you. Welcome. And say hello to everybody. And what's going on? Tell me your story.
Hey, hi Dan, thank you. It's lovely to be doing this success story. I really didn't imagine I'd be doing it at this point, when I found out about you not that long ago. It was, I think, this time last year we first connected.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm going to start a little bit with a bit of history, a bit of background. So for
Sure.
me, it's mostly been a back issue. And probably before I met you, Dan, I would have said it was entirely a back issue. But now I've realised, the kind of the dots joining up, that it wasn't just that. There've been other things all through my life. I, clearly had TMS for quite a long period of time, I would say, probably since my teens, showing up in various forms. But the main thing that happened to me was in 2013. I could tell you the date and the time. It was that significant. I hurt my back. I was at the stables where I kept my horse, and I'd actually done all the kind of heavy work, and I'd got him ready to ride, and I kept my riding hat in a bin because various things used to chew at it. And as I bent over to pick it up, when I came back up, I felt like I'd been shot in the back, and I just went down on my knees. And I'd had back pain before, but this was off the Richter scale, and I knew something significant had happened in that moment. And I tried my best to get back up. I managed to get in my car and drive home, and then I was just done. I never experienced so much pain. This continued for months and months, and I saw various physios, and after about a year of really struggling, by that point I'm in the kind of chronic label. Um, I finally get to see a back consultant at the local hospital, and as you can imagine, I put so much oh my God, please help me, please fix me energy into this. I gave all my power away. I went to this appointment and I was like, oh, and I saw probably the most hideous back consultant on the planet. I hope nobody ever sees this guy. He looked at my MRI and he said, well, if you do, all this kind of activities and you're a heavy smoker, you expect to have a back like this. And I said, well, first of all, I don't smoke and I've never smoked. And secondly, I don't do any kind of gymnastics but he was really like, it's kind of like it's your fault. You've done something. And he gave me absolutely nothing to take away. In fact, I walked out when he said, you won't recover. I just walked out.
Wow.
It was really, really awful. Low point. Anyway, anger, quite a good emotion to get moving. Went to see a different consultant, private consultant that had been recommended. Then, even better, managed to get our National Health to refer me to this guy. And although he couldn't give me answers, he actually explained things a lot better. And he was the first person to tell me that my MRI actually showed normal abnormalities and that there can be various reasons for
Awesome.
pain. And I was like, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Awesome.
And he suggested physio and various other things. And I kind of roller coasted. I went up and I went down, but I got very depressed as well because I had to give up my horse. I basically started living a life that was really, really restricted. And this was all about absolute fear of the pain. I knew that I held myself in a weird way, and friends and family would say to me, just relax, you need to relax your body. And I literally couldn't. I felt like I had a broom handle, sort of up my back and one through here. And, I walked like this and I held myself in a way that my brain was saying, you won't hurt yourself if you do this. If I reached things, it was kind of like this. oh, and like getting up from a chair.
I did that for
Oh,
over a decade. Walk like a robot, very guarded,
practically the same.
very protected, and that is the brain's defense
Yeah,
strategy. So you
yeah,
won't hurt yourself. So I'm
exactly.
sorry. Keep going.
In the meantime, thank you, I lost so much fitness, muscle mass, put on weight, felt even more, like, oh God, where's this going? I can't ride, I can't do this. And my whole mindset just became what I can't do.
Mhm.
Um, then I did a mindfulness course. A friend of mine took me, and that was great because that really helped me to change my mental attitude. So I got to this place where it was a bit more kind of acceptance, but what I didn't have was that I'm okay, that there's nothing wrong with me. It was like an acceptance of
I'm broken.
this is how life is going to be, and I enjoyed doing the practices, and that and it definitely helped to soothe me, but it wasn't
This
giving
wasn't,
me
yeah, it wasn't
no,
a solution.
no, no, but it was a lovely experience. It was better than going, oh my God. But there was still a fair amount of that around as well.
Yeah.
As I didn't get any better with the physio, the back consultant that I saw, he arranged for me then to see a pain consultant. And he suggested that I had injections. So I had one injection, had quite a good response from it. Could have been the placebo, could have been anything. Had a few months where I was beginning to get back to fitness, started doing a kind of Pilates recovery back class, was really kind of getting somewhere. And then in the class, I did my back in. My back went doing a movement, completely went. So then I was totally afraid of doing anything like that. So it's like, that stops. So then it was to the second round of injections. And again, temporary relief, but didn't really get anywhere with the exercise that time as I was just too afraid. Walking was good. It was like, if I could just walk and walk my dog, that's fine. Mm-hmm. So I was feeling like I was living this much of my life, rather than a whole life. It was I felt really kind of like, oh God, where is this going? Then it was back to the pain consultant again. He said, you need something more. We'll do rhizotomy. We'll do the nerve, and that will be a more long-term solution. So they did that, and it was longer term. It did last, but it wasn't a solution again at all. So again, I'm feeling like, and they basically said, and kind of that's it. There's really nothing more that we can do for you.
Wow.
And then other things changed in my life. So during this time, I lost my mum really sadly. She had a stroke, and I know after 4 days she was. So it's like my kind of support was, because my mum was very positive and she was a nurse. She was absolutely always looking on the bright side, always looking on the. So there was this person that I could always go to, and they weren't there anymore. So things began to change, and then I became very ill and had a serious diagnosis, and then everything changed. But I noticed that my back pain went entirely. And even before I knew anything about Sano or you, something in my head said, it's because you're not thinking about it. You're not giving it any attention. You're not afraid of it. You've got so much to be afraid of, Diane, that you're back. And it was literally like I was doing this without realizing. I was just going, I can't even entertain that idea. At this point in my life, I can't even consider that. You're going to have to take a back seat. And it really took a back seat for probably 2.5 years.
And then as bothersome, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I was completely pain-free, more or less, during all the treatment that I had as I came out of that, because I wasn't thinking about it. I had no headspace for it. Mm-hmm. But as, things calmed down and I got back into life, and I changed my life entirely. So I used to be a teacher in an FE college, and I decided, do you know what? I'm going to train to teach mindfulness because that helped me so much, and I could do that with the emphasis of helping people that are in pain. So that was brilliant. I started to do, things that I wanted to do with my life. And things really started to look up, but then the pain started to come back. And I was like, oh goodness, what's going on? This is not where I want to be. And last summer, 2021, I was looking on Google about the mind body, because I was all in with the mindfulness, and Dr. Sana pops up. So I watched the video online on YouTube, and I was just like, oh my God.
That's me.
Yeah. And then I ordered the book. Book came, a couple of days later. And I read this book more or less in 2 sittings, and I was crying, and I was like, oh my God, there is something. This actually is something. This is explaining, this is telling me all I've been through, all the dots started to join up. I felt this enormous relief, and I almost had what you call the book recovery, but it was very short term. So I thought, okay, I need to implement this. So I was trying to implement what he was saying. And I thought, I need more help. So I went online. I found Dr. Schrubener, Howard Schrubener, found some of his stuff. And then that linked to you. Ta-da. And I started watching your daily videos. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is absolutely incredible. And I was learning so much out of your daily videos, and I could feel the hope. That's what I would explain it. So whereas I felt completely hopeless, this hope came, and it was like, there is a way out. There is definitely a way out.
Sure.
And so I just felt like someone had thrown me a lifeline, like I was down the hole and someone had chucked me, and I was like, I don't even need to hold on to the lifeline. I can just start going up the ladder myself. Just start going. And I made an appointment to have a one-to-one with you. And that was incredible, because you explained everything. You talked me through the whole TMS, the whole explanation of how it works, how it affects the body, how you've got to approach it, with this whole mindset of, that there really is nothing wrong with me. I'm absolutely fine as I am. And it just felt so empowering. And after that, I started to take off again. And then I slipped back a bit. And I kept thinking, group. And then I thought, yeah, group. So I joined the group. Oh, wow. I mean, another massive, huge step up the ladder. I mean, but this time it felt like it wasn't such hard work. I wasn't just taking myself up the ladder. There were other people around me going, come on, Diane, you can do this. I'm proud of you. It was so supportive and so loving. And I felt for the first time in my life that I wasn't alone with all that I'd been through. I'd had so many years of people saying to me, oh, are you sure it's not all in your head, and rolling their eyes, your back, oh, we need to get you another chair, and just slightly patronizing, sarcastic comments that I'm sure we've all been on the receiving end of. But I was, like you said, you were the guy who had the bad back. I was the woman who had the bad back to all my friends, and I'd arrive somewhere and they'd say, oh, we're keeping that chair for Diane. And you'd immediately feel like, or I'd be at a party and I think I'd have a bit of a dance, and then one of my friends would say, you need to be careful. We don't want you putting your back out. And then my brain would go, and then my back would hurt. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going home now.
Yeah, the power of suggestion.
Yeah. So learning all of this has just been absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that's the story with the back. But I realized there's far more. There's far more TMS than I realized, and it goes back much, much earlier than I realized. It goes back to a time where I felt very unsafe. My family, just my family situation completely changed in a moment, and I felt very unsafe. And I began to, have various different things, terrible shoulder pain, palpitations, all sorts of things, rashes, and I kind of identified myself as being super sensitive. But now I look back, whenever I had any of these things materialize, it was always around a time of great stress, at a time of really not feeling not feeling safe, not having that kind of trust in what was going on around me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, that statement there, not feeling safe, not feeling safe. I mean, that's really solidifying what I've been talking about literally for like the past year, probably since January. Instead of calling it TMS, 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 which to a stranger, they go, well, what the heck's that? I've started using the term perceived danger to describe what causes the pain or the symptoms. So perceived danger pain, perceived danger symptoms. And like you said, your experiences with the shoulder, the palpitating heart, the rashes, and then later the back pain, probably all tied to timeframes where you didn't feel safe, which meant your brain was perceiving danger. And for anybody who's new to this stuff, the subconscious brain's voice, the warning signal are pain or symptoms. And so you've experienced that. So how are you doing now?
So now, it's absolutely fantastic. I don't even think about it, Dan. I don't think about it. It's just like,
that's when you know you're through
yeah,
it, because you're not thinking about it, you're not worrying about it, you're just on with life.
Yeah. And when it does come up, which it does invariably, I just ignore it. Or I, give it a bit of attention, but like loving attention. And I just say, oh, I'm all right. It's okay. Everything's all right. You'll be okay. Just keep walking. It's fine. Sometimes it happens when I'm walking. And what used to happen is if I got a spasm when I was walking, I'd go into a complete panic. Oh my God, how far am I from the car, the house?
Do I have to call somebody?
I used to call my husband and say, come and get me in the dog. I'm down the road. And, and he'd come down and say, oh, why did you walk so far? Or, and I look back now and I just think it was all fear-based. It was all fear-based. And, once you take the fear away, everything begins to change. And it's just so lovely just to be out and walk further and do more. I mean, there's still a lot more that I want to do. And, and I know that my fitness levels are still, they're not optimum, but I feel different. I don't feel broken. I just feel a bit unfit,
Yeah, but that's normal.
Are and I know
another horse?
That can change.
Are you going to get another horse?
No, but the horse that I had, he's with a friend of mine now. I think I'm going to go and have a ride on him. Yeah.
Take a picture.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So you mentioned that you joined the group and you were in that for a while. And like you said, there was a great sense of community there, support. People understood you. You weren't feeling alone. They got it. They understood. No condescending. Oh, get a better chair. Like,
no,
it's a very consistent environment. How did you know you were ready to leave the group? What was that decision like?
Oh, okay. So I knew I was ready to leave the group when people were asking questions and I kind of knew the answers, like I felt them. And so there was that underlying message to me that said, you do know what to do. You've got to implement it. It's like implement, keep doing it. So I was really listening to what you were saying to others in the group, and also their experiences and how they overcame various things. They were so valid, and other things that people spoke about in the group. I think it was perhaps Laurie who spoke about sleep, and Courtney, and that really lifted me because my sleep hasn't always been brilliant and I believed it was damaging me. So to hear that and hear from other people, this is my experience, this is information that you can look at, and no, it's not. That was like, well, that's another entirely different mindset, and what we believe, it perpetuates. So I realized that I had a lot of bad data or crap data in my brain going, and then I was wondering why what was coming out, the feelings that I was having were more or less the same. And then that reconnects with, well, then you're right with what you're thinking. But actually, if you can just break that entirely and do that, I love that what if it all works out. I do that all the time. Every time I have a little or even a big, I just go, do you know what, Diane? What if it all works out? And I imagine the story like maybe in the complete opposite or in a different, reframing it so that everything's working out how I would really love it to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole energy changes and you feel different in yourself. And, and it's like you said, if you're going to tell yourself a story, why would you tell yourself a horror story? And I've told myself, triple X rated horror stories, like Halloween specials about where I'm going to end up with my back, and none of them were true, Dan. None of them were true. So when that stopped and those, like that moment where you go, oh, then I go, ooh, and breathe and just go, you know what, you're all right. You're all right. And I say that to myself a lot, you're okay. You're all right. And I feel it and I believe it. And that took a while. It took practice. But that self-soothing, that really, really, really helps me. Really helps me. Being outside as well, being in nature really helps me when I'm walking, just connecting, with what is around me. Mm-hmm. And, being in that lovely space and just feeling that energy and being grateful as well, Sure. I spent far too long looking at what I'd lost. And it's like I had so much all around me, so much love, family, friends, lovely home, dog. I wasn't looking at what I got. I was only looking at what I'd lost. So it was a massive, massive life lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, and so much of what you're saying absolutely supports the fact that once you understand that this is nothing more than your brain perceiving danger, you don't have to figure out what it was, what triggered it, exactly what happened. Was it something from the past, something from we don't have to understand all the answer to the question, why is this happening? Or why did it happen? Or why did my symptoms go up? While you're taking a walk, your symptom jumps a little bit. You don't have to figure out why. Well, was it a thought? Was it an experience? Did I have a phone call with somebody I don't like? You don't have to figure it out.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Immediately move to the soothing, calming, the reassuring. So if perceived danger is the problem, safety is the solution. So the quicker you can move towards, well, how can I convince myself I'm safe in the moment? Well, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're really okay. That's soothing. That'll dial down the fears. And like you said, you had so much bad data from the consultants, from your own research, from your own experience, from friends and family warning you, and don't use that chair, use this chair. All that's bad data. And if your brain is operating on fear and misinformation, bad data, the result is typically pain or other symptoms. And so we fix the data. That helps us dial down the fear massively. And then we focus on safety. And that's truly the solution.
It is absolutely
it's not complicated.
No, it's not complicated. What I would say to other people is it takes time. It takes time and repetition. And it will, without you really realizing, like subliminally from your subconscious, become your natural kind of default response. So my natural response now when I have pain, honestly, is like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm fine. Just breathe. It's fine. And it's so empowering. It's so empowering compared to going, oh my God, last time I had that, I couldn't move for 6 weeks, or I had that and then it led to the knee pain. And I've done the whole pains going down the body, back, hips, sacroiliac joint, knees, ankles. I mean, weird pains in my feet, all sorts of things. And I realize now they're all connected. And what would happen during that period where I was kind of roller coasting and having injections was, I'd get better with my back, but then my knee would start hurting. Or I'd get better with my, with the back and the knee, and then my ankle would start playing up. And it's like, it's really, really like absolutely amazing, that the body can create this amount of pain because
the brain does.
Yeah.
The body doesn't do anything. The brain does.
Yeah. Sorry, that you experience that pain in the body because the brain is creating it because you are perceiving danger. And I was perceiving danger on a massive scale everywhere I went with everything I did. I'd kind of do like a risk assessment with, with every activity I was going to do. Are we going on a boat trip? Will I be able to sit on that seat? How long is the boat trip? Is there a loo? I mean, it's just all sort of like ridiculous. Will I be able to stand up? Is it going to be rough? And I talked myself out of doing so many lovely things.
Your world shrunk.
My world shrunk, literally. It wasn't that I ever stopped going out, but I stopped engaging in the activities of life. I would be the one standing by going, hey, that looks fun, thinking, I want to do that. And now I'm doing that. I'm having a go. I'm taking part in those activities. And like I said to you in the summer, I went abroad for the first time in 3 years, like all of us. We've changed lifestyles over the past few years. And my husband's family come from Sicily, so he went first, and then I flew out there, and I was kind of worried about that, but it was absolutely fine. I kept visualizing it all going well. It's all going to be fine. And it was. And I really wanted to swim in the sea. And the first time I swam in the sea, I suddenly started to feel that fear about my back. And of course it hurt. And I was like, no. It's all right, Diane. You're fine. So then I just laid on my back in the water and felt supported. And, and it passed off. And then a couple of days later, I was feeling, quite wound up about some things that were happening. And I thought, I'm going to go and swim in the sea to relax. It was like a completely different kind of response. So, it's really opened up life to me again. And it's been a good few months, I suppose. It took, I would say, I joined the group in May and I left last month, I think in October, around mid-October. And it was that kind of 5 months of like being with other people that were going through similar experiences and kind of almost like borrowing their courage as well of, do you know what? He's done that, if they can do it, you can give this a go as well. You can have a go. So you're all inspiring each other's, and then, that sharing of the wins that you do at the beginning of the call. So anyone who's not been in the group, at the beginning, we always talk about, what's gone well in the last week. And there's some really little magic moments in there. And hearing that somebody who perhaps last week they were in tears, they were in bed, or they just felt like the world was ending, that they went out and they did something, like they drove a car for the first time in 7 years, or they, all these wonderful things and all these lovely people that I've met. So inspiring. And I was like, right, you've got to commit to this. If you want to get better, you've got to commit to firstly really feeling that, determination within you, and then implementing everything that you've taught us. So that's how I did it. I just kept going with it, and I slipped up lots of times. And that's what I would say to anybody else. The first few times I was doing it and I was walking and I got a pain, or I got out of bed and my back suddenly went, as I always say, went. I don't know where it went, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I'd say, oh, and then I wasn't really believing, embracing it. It was like I wanted it to be so, but in the back of my mind there was this little like, you're still broken, you're a special kind of broken. So I had to deal with that voice as well and say, you're not helpful, actually. You can do one. Yeah, absolutely. And acknowledge that. And I think so that was where my mindfulness came in, which was great with the mental stuff, because it was like acknowledging, well, yes, I do feel like that. I do feel afraid, but I'm just going to take care of it and continue. So that's what I did, and it absolutely works. There is nothing complicated. I think Dan said this many times in, different, the morning lovely shares that you do within the group, that it is very simple. It's hard to implement, but it's a very simple process. And the only thing that is hard about the implementation is getting your mindset into the belief. So for me, it was belief first, that came quite quickly, belief that it can work. But there was that question mark about, oh, but will it work for me? And
Yes.
yeah.
So
And I
many
bought,
people are in that place.
yeah,
I believe it's mind body, perceived dangers
yeah,
causing the problems. I have no doubt about that, but I don't think I'm capable because I'm a special kind of broken. I'm too anxious. My
yeah.
thoughts race. I'm doing it all wrong. I've got too much stress in my life. Whatever it may be, I've got too much real chaos in my life that I don't think this is going to work for me. So I'd like to ask you a question. You mentioned the concept, you got to commit to it, dive in
Yeah.
and do the work, implement. One of the things that I notice all the time, and candidly, it frustrates me, is we get people joining the group,
Mm-hmm.
and then a month or two later, I'll get a cancellation notice. This person canceled from the group. And I look at the cancellation notice and I say, wow, I don't recognize that name. And to me, that means they did not engage in the Facebook community for this private group. They did not show up to the calls. They did not participate in the calls. And that frustrates me because I'm saying, well, people who do participate are improving, many of them getting better. And so the people that say, I bought the course, I watched the course, well, I don't know, and then they're out and I'm not good in groups. What would you say to a person who says, I'm not good in groups? That scares me.
Okay, so I would say take it a step at a time, and perhaps the first session, I would really encourage you to put the camera on so that you can be seen by people, if not all the time, but part of the time, and just kind of join in with, like sometimes when we're celebrating somebody's win or, something that, they're really joyful about, we're all kind of joining in and giving a little, and just doing that, you feel like part of the community. But,
Mm-hmm.
but if that's too much, then I guess for some people, start with the camera off. But I would build up and maybe consider, you will all have questions. Dan accepts questions on the weekly basis. Submit a question so that you will get your question answered, and you'll also get input from other people in the group who will, give their suggestions about what worked for them, or say to you, oh my God, I'm feeling exactly the same. I'm so glad you brought this up. And actually, that's so valid. When I said I felt a special type of broken, oversensitive, a lot of people went, oh, that's me as well. The response was great. And then there were other people that said, oh, well, I felt like that. And then I did this. And it was that help and that support from people that led me further forward. So, no one's asking you to kind of like jump straight in. You've got to come in with your camera on and like, hi, I'm here and hello. And, but you can come in gently. And I think by submitting a question, then you'll be asked, to, be on the screen, and you'll be talking with Dan, and it's all very safe, and everybody's holding that space for you. So
Yeah,
that, I guess that would be my suggestion. But,
yeah, we've definitely had some people come in terrified, crying in the first call, feeling very out of place. And a week or two later, you can literally see they have shifted. They have gotten to a place of, you can actually see the hope on their face. And without that hope, you're not going to take the action. You're not going to show up. You're going to talk yourself out of it. And so we see people, yeah, and we hear it all the time. Somebody in the group will go, oh, Diane, you look like a completely different person from when you first showed up.
Yeah.
And that type of transformation isn't forced. It's just organic. It's natural. People go from terrified of life, terrified of their body, terrified of their brain even. Because a lot of people with this mind-body stuff are like, yeah, I'm scared of my brain because if it can do this, what else can it do? And that's just a story that says life is a scary, dangerous place. And that will keep you in that perceived danger. And so I'm sure I could go on a big tangent here. I just really wanted you to kind of give your take on how people can engage. And I like that. Go in gently. If you want, just watch. Keep the camera off. If you raise your hand, and you want to ask a question, I might ask you to turn on the camera, but if you don't want to, that's fine. I interact with people all the time, just audio.
Yes.
So it's not mandatory to show up on video, but you'll get a chance to see everybody else on video, which can help give you that sense of community and, I guess.
Yeah, there is
engagement.
such a sense of community.
Yeah, and not to scare anybody, but there's a lot of group crying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's somebody sharing their victories and wins, and they get emotional while sharing something that they've done. And you look around the Zoom, there might be 25 people on the screen, and like inevitably there's like 5 people grabbing tissues and sobbing along with them. And then there's other cases where people are truly terrified and like come into it in a bad place. Now, for anybody who's listening to that and going, "Oh, I can't do that because that'll trigger me, that'll make me worse," the support aspect far outweighs the couple of things that might be a little bit scary to hear once in a while. We're very cautious about not using terribly descriptive language surrounding symptoms. In many cases, honestly, Diane, a lot of the people in the group, I don't even know what symptoms they have, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Your back pain is somebody else's, migraines is somebody else's, pelvic pain is somebody else's, bladder pain is somebody else's, digestive issues. It really doesn't matter because the solution's all the same. And we can all learn something from the rest of the group members. So if somebody did something that helped get rid of their back pain, that can help get rid of somebody else's shoulder pain. It's the mindset, it's the belief, it's the ability to reassure yourself, get rid of the bad data that says I'm broken and replace it with the holy crap, I'm actually okay data.
I think that's such a valid point. You're saying that's such a valid point, because when I first joined the group, I was specifically looking and listening to people that had back pain, because I was like, you're going to be the ones that are going to be able to get what I'm saying or have that empathy or understanding. But actually, it's really generic, and, there are people in the group that have been really, really helpful, like Annie, Donna, Ingrid, Martin, Robert. I mean, just loads of them. I can't even mention them all by name. Courtney, Laurie. I don't want to miss anyone out. All of you.
Well, there's a lot of people in there, but I get the point.
Yeah. And I've lost the point. What was I saying? I've completely lost it.
I wasn't in your head, so I'm not sure I can finish the point for you.
I was talking about, I was first of all
looking for symptoms.
People that had particular symptoms, but I learned so much from people that I now know have entirely different symptoms to me. And it's what you say, it's about having it's the pain that comes from, the perception of danger. It doesn't matter what kind of pain your brain produces, because it's the brain that we need to work with.
Right. The problem is from the neck up.
Yeah.
And that's where we do the work in the group and in the coaching and my daily videos. So look, for anybody watching this saying either I don't want to join the group or I can't afford to join the group, watch the daily videos, because I mean, Diane, you've watched the dailies, you've been in the group.
I still watch the dailies.
I don't hold anything back in the dailies. The same stuff I talk about in the group is in the daily videos. It's not like I'm dangling a carrot to say, here's a little bit, but if you want the good stuff, join the group. This is all about help as many people as I can. And so if you can't join the group or you're too uncomfortable to do it, watch the dailies, but watching them will only get you this far. Diane said it several times. Implement, implement, implement. Start putting this stuff into practice. One more question for you, Diane.
Yeah, sure.
For the person who says, it's exhausting to have to always reassure myself that I'm okay, what would you say to that person? Because clearly you got in the habit of doing that, but the person says it's exhausting, what would you say?
So I would say initially, yes, I would agree with you, but it's far more exhausting to be dealing with pain all the time.
Yes.
Far more exhausting, yeah? And it is that energy, that determination that you need to find to kind of catapult yourself a bit at the beginning to go. It's like you're in the block ready to run, you've got to go, but then once you start moving, it all falls into place and it becomes, like I said, it becomes the default response. But at the beginning, it was it was very conscious. It even felt a little bit false, I have to say, at the beginning, but it became my belief because it began to work. And it felt so nice as well. I mean, what's better than saying to yourself, you know what, you're okay, darling, you're fine, rather than going, oh my God, oh, what's wrong? Who should I call? Doctor? You know, can't call my mum anymore, she's not here. You know, that was my normal kind of like default reaction. So now it's all about a conscious response, and it's about keeping that subconscious mind calm so that it doesn't turn the pain symptom on, because there isn't a danger. It's like there is no danger. There is nothing bad happening in this moment. I do that thing sometimes where I look around the room and I go, what's happening then, Diane? Nothing. Nothing. Yeah? It's like kind of talking and joking to yourself. And yeah, and it's like something you just need to keep it going.
Yeah.
And yes, it might be a bit exhausting, but it is not nearly as exhausting. It's nothing like being in pain, and it's so, so empowering. You know, I really urge you all to implement, because if you just listen, you don't get there. And what happens in the group is you hear other people's stories. They're implementing, so that supports your belief. So although Dan doesn't hold anything back, you know, and so thankful to you, Dan, so thankful, honestly. You've been amazing, absolutely incredible. Although he doesn't hold anything back on a personal level, what he can't give you on the one-to-one or on the video is that real belief and assurance that you get in the community, even if you do feel a little afraid to join in, you know, at the beginning, just by being there and listening to people. I've done this, or I'm in this process, and other people, oh, I've done that too, and this is working and that's working, or perhaps, oh my God, I tried that and then I fell down again. Sure. Oh, so did I, but then I got up. And it's just a journey of kind of, you know, a little bit of a roller coaster. And I would say that the bumps start to even out. So at the beginning it was, woo, oh my God, woo. But now it's kind of, it's just like a calm, tranquil lake with the odd ripple. And when that ripple comes, I just, like I said, you know, it's okay. Whatever. It's okay. Yeah. What if it all works out? Whatever. You know, and we've had so many funny moments, you know, like when Donna in the group did her rolling her eyes impression of you and posted that, you know, that made me laugh so much. I actually got her to send it to me because, you know, if I have a moment where I need to really believe it, I just watch that, you know. So you really get the support from all these people, and genuine care, genuine love. Everybody's looking for the same thing. They're looking for that, you know, that sense of happiness and that, you know, returning to the health that you had in your body. It's not something that you need to go and find out there, because it's already in you. It's just you lost it because your mind's gone.
Bad data.
Bad data. Yeah. Yeah. I'm shredding mine. It's shredded.
Yeah. Well, that's the old
sometimes it
gets
reprinted.
The old computer term. Garbage in, garbage out. Well, if you've got garbage coming into your head about all this medical stuff and you're broken and you'll never get better, and you know, it's hard for the brain to interpret you being safe in your body. So you fix the data with accurate knowledge, and then you just continually remind yourself of that and reassure yourself. And in the point I will make, it doesn't take any extra time to implement this and be positive than it did freaking out 18 hours a day. It doesn't take any more time. It's not like you've got to dedicate 30 minutes, an hour, or 2 hours a day to your healing practice. There is no healing practice. No. It's accurate data, mindset, dial down the fear. What if it's going to work out okay? Like, you didn't sit down and do 2 hours a day of work.
No. And when I stopped doing that, so that's a really important, when I stopped, like I'm doing this, like I do a lot of meditation and mindfulness, like I said, but when I stopped doing it as a cure to fix myself, but began doing it as, because I like doing this, because it's good for me,
sure, everything
began to change. Mm-hmm. Because when I spent so much time trying to fix or getting other people to fix me, you know, I just felt I was just giving all my power away. I was at the mercy of my brain, my body, whatever it was, the circumstances. It's felt like I felt powerless until I read Sano, until I met you. I felt like I had no power. I was like, I just have to adjust and keep adapting to whatever was coming my way. And a lot came my way because that was the mindset I had.
So the one thing to point out is if you're spending all of your time doing these fixing activities, all those fixing activities do is give your brain no choice but to perceive you're trying to fix something because something dangerous is going on, which goes all the way back to the root that your brain's perceiving danger. So if you're fixing yourself for half an hour, 1, 2, 5 hours a day, your brain's got no choice but to perceive, I'm messed up. Look how much time I'm spending fixing. And every time you do something and it doesn't work, oh, darn it, I still hurt. Then you feel even more despondent because you're spending all this time fixing. But in fact, and I joke a lot, and I'll say it in the group calls, and, if you had a brand new car sitting in the garage and it's working perfectly, how much time would you spend working on the engine? None. That would be ridiculous. So why are we doing all of these fixing activities? When in fact, Dr. Sarna was right. He used to dismiss patients from his office in New York City by saying, there's nothing wrong with you. Go live your life. And that's the core message I have. Relax. You're not broken, not mentally, physically, or emotionally.
And it's really powerful stuff.
But you got to get it from the intellectual, because people will always say, Dan, I know everything about TMS. How come I'm not better? Well, yeah, intellectually you get it.
Yeah.
Your subconscious is still paying attention to what you're doing, which is freaking out every time you notice the symptoms or the pains.
Exactly.
So you got to not only know it, but you got to teach it to the subconscious by your reaction. If you want the brain to calm down, the subconscious brain, you have to be consciously calm for the subconscious to eventually catch up. You can't be running around consciously freaking out and expect the brain to turn off the danger signals. It's just not how it works. This is a brain game. And so we want to use the conscious thinking, intelligent brain to lead the way for the subconscious brain, because the subconscious is controlling the show. It's deciding pain or no pain. So use your conscious thinking brain to lead the way.
And I feel if you can approach it in a light way rather than a heavy way, not this sort of like, oh my God, there's something wrong with my brain, because there's nothing wrong with your brain. Your brain is working absolutely perfectly. But our brain's main function is survival, to keep us okay. So it's just doing the thing that it's always done if you feel like you're in danger. So if you can interrupt that nanosecond where you feel the danger with some kind of calm response, you will interrupt it's like those wires that fire together, whatever you want to say. It's like you're interrupting the connection. They don't quite hit. They might go like this. And suddenly you get a different response in the body because you're not doing the same thing that you always did. And like I said, at first, it can feel a bit false. But as you do it more, it becomes more your natural response. And it's really powerful. It's really powerful. And it's not so like a game, but it's something I think that you can take as a very empowering tool, rather than kind of going, oh my God, it's my brain's awful. It's like, no, your brain is amazing. It's like, it's the most amazing, I don't know what you want to compare it to. I can only think of a computer really, but, the conscious awareness, more amazing than anything else in the universe. We have that conscious awareness. So that you can use that to totally, completely change how you're responding subconsciously through practice. That's really empowering.
Absolutely.
And that's all you need to do. That's why it's the repetition of the response. And we just want that soothing. It's like when I used to fall over when I was young and, I'd hurt myself, fall off my bike or my pony, and my mum, I'd run, and she'd go, oh, just come here, darling, kiss it better, and I'd be fine, be absolutely fine. So it's that kind of like, kiss yourself better, We
can do that for ourselves. We can make sure ourselves, like if the freak out is the scared child, we can parent ourselves.
Absolutely. And I do that too. I have that, just have that vision. And if I see things like visually, that really helps as well. So this is what I do, okay? If I have a panicky moment, and I suppose this is to do with the mindfulness stuff, I name it, whatever it is, fear, and I see it like in a kind of a balloon above my head. There it is, it's arrived. And then I go, it's all right. And I get a bigger balloon, it goes around it, it says like calm reassurance. Huh? And it calms it all down. And then I imagine maybe I've got a little string, and when I'm ready, just let go. And that works.
Yeah, however you get there, whether it be visualizations, and some of what you just described is kind of similar to some concepts in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So it's like, okay, so the fear is this big balloon right here, and so I'm going to release it, and I'm going to watch that balloon float up and get farther and farther away, and smaller and smaller and smaller until it vanishes. And so sometimes these visualizations can really help you.
Exactly, it's personal preference, but
there's no right way to do it. You don't have to figure out what Diane's talking about. And
no, sorry,
no. I'm not suggesting you did anything wrong. I'm just suggesting to the people listening, you don't have to get balloons. You don't have to get balloons. It's just the key is shrink the fear, enlarge in this wellness, this feeling that I'm okay. However you get there is wonderful.
Yeah, it's just bringing in that calm reassurance. And I like the idea of, visually for me, it works. Bring that in all around.
Wonderful.
Fear. And whether you just do that as a feeling or you want to visualize something. But that's how I learn. I'm a visual person. So that's just how I learn stuff.
So before we wrap it up, is there anything else you feel like you'd like to share with the people watching? Or in summary?
Okay. So I guess what I'd really like to say is, this absolutely works. And I'm so, so grateful to Dan and his teachings, all the time that he gives, and, and really, really persevere. At times you might feel like giving up, but don't give in to that feeling of giving up. Just recognize that you're having a day where you maybe don't feel like implementing stuff, and that's okay as well. Just have a day like that. Go back to it the next day, and just being kind to yourself and knowing that by implementing these ideas and having that belief, things will change.
Wonderful. So listen, I really appreciate it. You shared a lot of really good stuff, really good tips. I loved hearing your journey because obviously I've known you from the group and we've weekly seen each other, but kind of hearing the whole story is really interesting. Some of the childhood stuff that you were talking about and your ability to now look backwards and connect the dots between those times when you felt most unsafe.
Oh, entirely.
Or when the symptoms were showing up. So hopefully for the people watching, that's helped you connect some dots as well as you look back at your most unsafe feeling times and symptoms that kind of went along with it. But this has been brilliant. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Probably take a couple of days to get it posted up online, but keep an eye on the daily videos and you'll absolutely see it. So listen, Diane, I really appreciate you. And I'm proud of you because you actually not just listened, but you implemented and you came out the other side, which just proves that this stuff does work. And really appreciate you encouraging everybody else by sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just go for it. That's what I say. Just go for it and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.